Once a kata has been learned, it must be practiced repeatedly until it can be applied in an emergency. For knowledge of just the sequence of a kata in karate is useless. A quote on kata from Gichin Funakoshi. Welcome back to another Kyokushin Society vlog where we discuss Kyokushin Karate and other martial arts related content. When you perform and practice kata correctly, that is when you are able to synchronize your martial art techniques together and use them properly through a fluid motion of mind and body manifestation. Kata is the foundation and essence of traditional karate and develops coordination, strength, speed, and balance. When kata was in the development in the Ryokan Kingdom, Okinawa, the only purpose behind the katas at that stage in history was to record all the highly effective and brutal combat methods used in fighting and to provide a sort of training method to perfect the necessary combat skills. The fighting systems and methods back then were very closely guarded secrets. And such, the katas and the particular applications known as bunkai today were secretive. The katas were used to hide deadly techniques which were only understood by a few practitioners. Thus, the karate practice of Tode and Okinawa-de was done in hiding among small circles in those times. And since there were no written records about these fighting drills, they were passed along with the help of kata through generations to come. Back then, practice of the katas was done in small groups, between families, and even in a one-on-one format, keeping the art secretive. Most of the kata practice at this time were Chinese in origin, with some influence of techniques that originated from other parts like the samurai, but all the katas were practiced with purpose of improving the skills used in real combat. Fast forward to when karate was introduced into the curriculum of the Okinawan schools, and Ankō Itosu started instructing children, and even to this day, the emphasis of practicing kata was now placed more on the development of physical fitness through group practice of the kata forms. Ankō Itosu said that you must decide whether your kata is for health or for its practical use. The fighting applications of the katas were left out of the instructions of the children in the Okinawan schools, and the original fighting art taught to the adults was watered down. Because of Ankō Itosu changes, even to this day, a lot of martial arts schools teach kata without its real applications. Traditionally, the practice was to learn the kata, and when the student would gain his master's trust, then the master would teach the applications to the student alongside the kata. Unfortunately, a lot of martial arts schools fail to do this, and the applications are not taught anymore. Only a shell of what the kata was remains, and you can even say that some of the schools practice kata in a children's way, not in the way of the real effective combat fighting art form that kata was originally intended to be. During the time Ankō Itosu taught Tode at Okinawa's first prefectural high school, he developed a systematic method of teaching karate techniques that are still practiced today. Ankō Itosu created the pinan forms as learning steps for the students because he felt that the older forms meant for combat fighting were too hard to learn by the children. The 5 pinan Ankō Itosu taught to the children were created from 2 other forms, kusanku and chiang-nan. Kusanku or kankudai is an open-hand karate kata that was studied by many practitioners of Okinawan karate styles related to shurite. Shotokan karate practiced 2 versions of this kata, kusanku sho and kusanku dai. The name Kusanku came from a Chinese diplomat who traveled to Okinawa in the 1700s. And in Japan and Kyokushin Karate, this kata is known as kanku, translated as viewing the sky. The other kata Ankō Itosu derived the pinan katas from was Changnan. The original form of Changnan kata was lost, but the story around it is that Ankō Itosu learned the kata from a Chinese man living in Okinawa, and the kata was called Changnan by the man. Ankō Itosu formed the 5 pinan katas from the long Changnan and Kusanku kata, which he thought would be much easier for the school children to comprehend and learn. Then, Gichin Funakoshi modified the pinan forms on heian forms, which translated to peaceful and safe, and introduced his version of Kusanku and renamed it Kankudai in the 1930s. The pinan heian katas are now known as pinan shodan, nidan, sandan, yondan, and godan. They are taught to many beginner ranks according to their Q level. The pinan katas today serve as the foundation to the advanced katas, and they are a good base of starting to learn the techniques needed in the higher ranking katas. We can continue and discuss more of this karate history of the pinan katas, but we will leave that for a different video since there is so much more to discuss on this subject. And now, let's get into a deeper discussion on Bunkai. Kata originally were teaching and training methods by which fighting and combat techniques were preserved and passed on from generation to generation. Kata can contain in itself techniques beyond the superficial, obvious ones. Today, as we know it, the study and analysis of the meaning of the movements in kata is called Bunkai. Bunkai can have a lot of different interpretations and are not necessarily incorrect. To really determine if the Bunkai is correct is whether a particular interpretation of the move works when used in a real combat situation involving an uncomplying opponent. What one instructor and student might see as a downward blocking motion, like gerambarai, to protect an incoming kick, another might look at this as a strike with a fist to the leg or body. Or if one does a joran uke block and looks at it as defending from a hand strike to the head, the other might look at it as a hit to the tip of the nose, rendering his opponent unconscious. And all are correct in their respective combat situations. Kata is a system for defending oneself against uncomplying opponents. With this understanding, it is best to practice Bunkai for kata that is realistic and can transfer then to a real-life situation if necessary. Bunkai varies based on style and the instructors, and can even vary between the same styles. Each lead instructor has its own version of Bunkai and might change certain moves to fit their purpose. A single kata movement or stance can be broken into dozens of applications. And the same sequence of kata techniques can result in several different Bunkai applications. There are many different applications with Bunkai throughout the various styles of martial arts. And there are usually many steps of depth of comprehension of Bunkai, which can only be reached by daily hard training and practice of the moves in the kata over time. With that said, in today's time, kata is practiced more for sport than for its real original application, and some styles like MMA even drop the practice of kata fully. By practicing the kata without understanding of the practical application for it is useless and will not help you gain any self-defense and real fighting skills. The kata just becomes a dance. But if you think of the applications and reasons you are doing each move in the kata and imagine them in a real situation against an uncomplying opponent, you are then on the right track. With this, we finish today's video with one of Ankō Itosu's sayings. Practice each of these techniques of karate repeatedly. Learn the explanation of every technique well, and decide when and in what manner to apply them when needed. Us. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I We'll see you guys on the next video. Arigato.